All right. Hey, we have big news this afternoon. Breaking news, according to Inman. Let's bring up the story for you right away. Sitzer Burnett plaintiffs, attorneys in talks with the Department of Justice. They are teaming up with the Department of Justice, disrupting the National Association's use of the multiple listing service as, quote, a vehicle for higher commissions is the center of the talks, according to attorney Michael Ketchmark, who told this to Inman exclusively yesterday. Why it took Inman a day and a half or half a day or whatever to actually publish this article, I don't know. But this is a huge story. So if you've been following it, just to bring you back up to date here, if you've been following it, the Department of Justice, without actually coming out and saying it, has basically said that they want a system where the buyer pays the buyer fee and the seller pays the seller fee. And they are not a fan of the settlement here in Massachusetts, or proposed settlement, pending settlement, that is known as No Select versus MLS PIN, where the paying of the seller commission is optional. They're not a fan of that. They wrote a letter of interest in that case saying that they had significant concerns about having it optional after having watched it be optional in the Northwest MLS and in Bright MLS, which is the Middle Atlantic states, and having also had the Consumer Federation of America do a study showing that there's no effective market change when you make the commission situation optional. It's still basically a monopoly. So we were asked this morning in the live stream, when would the judge come out with his injunction or ruling about what you could not do? And I said maybe by Thanksgiving. Apparently that was rather optimistic. It might be more like a 30-day window. But this we've been waiting for the Department of Justice to intervene in this case. And now it seems as basically that the plaintiffs who won this $5.3 billion settlement are now teamed up with the Department of Justice to make a massive change in the way the real estate business works. The Department of Justice and the attorneys for the home seller plaintiffs in the Sitzer Burnett case have entered into significant and ongoing talks with the aim of shaking up how the real estate industry operates. Lead counsel Michael Ketchmark confirmed to Inman exclusively on Monday. You know, knowing very little about how the Department of Justice works, I don't think they're going to really appreciate this leak, but that's how that's how lawyers work. So, you know, but I don't think the DOJ is going to like this leak. At least they're going to say that they didn't like it. They probably are going to like it because from the public opinion point of view, but they're going to say they didn't like it. Simultaneously, they have announced that the Gibson case, which the plaintiff's lawyers filed immediately after the verdict last week, has a dollar figure of $600 billion. $600 billion. It's actually $200 billion, but if you win, it gets tripled to $600 billion. Now, the quotes in this article are very, very important. I want to kind of get into these quotes here. We're in alignment with what the Department of Justice wants, said Mr. Ketchmark. And again, the Department of Justice has not made an announcement of this type. We can only tell what they're feeling by the letter of interest that they filed with the No Select case, which they said they, quote again, had significant concerns, citing that the changes made by Northwest MLS and Bright MLS didn't make a difference. So the other step is obviously if you're going to there's basically three options, right? Require compensation or require cooperation. That's gone by the wayside because recently NAR has said, just before the trial start, NAR said cooperation is optional. In other words, you could offer $1. And then if that's not going to be good enough, then the obvious other option is you can't cooperate at all, which is actually the fundamental reason why the multiple listing service started to begin with, was to ensure cooperation amongst competing brokers. That was kind of the idea way back in the day. So let's go to back to these quotes here. They are in alignment with the Department of Justice to make real estate part of the free market. Singing my song right there. And to get NAR out of rigging the system, Ketchmark told Inman. We think this is a real opportunity for change. So, yeah, I mean, if you thought the lawyers were in this just for the money, maybe not. Maybe they are in it for the change. At least that's what you would think by reading these quotes. By the rules change. Ketchmark's talks with the Department of Justice have occurred before and during and after the trial, during which a jury awarded $1.7 billion times 3, $5.3 billion. So that's really interesting that if they've been in touch with the Department of Justice for well over a month, I'm just adding that up there. We've already, that's background there. Here's some very interesting quotes here. Ketchmark said the conversation with the Department of Justice and think tanks, I imagine that's going to be like Consumer Federation of America, that type of thing, have centered upon putting the trade organization out of the business of using the MLSs as a vehicle for higher commissions. The only thing that can mean is no cooperation in the MLS. In other words, the buyer pays the buyer's agent, the seller pays the seller's agent. This is one of those rare things in our country where, regardless of political situation, people can come together. Oh, kumbaya. Everyone agrees we have to get the National Association Realtors out of the pockets of homeowners. It's not right. And the jury exposed it for what it was. And I agree with that. You're right. You know me. I hate monopolies and I hate giant trusts. He said the conversations with the DOJ were significant and ongoing, but declined to share them more. Now, a couple of important things. One of the goals in filing the Gibson case is to make sure that any changes are brought nationwide. So this is an admission, really, of what I've mentioned to you, is that I really didn't think that the judge in the Sitzer case was going to issue a nationwide ruling banning cooperation. I just thought that was a stretch for one judge. But he might do it in that district. And effectively what Ketchmark is saying is now they're looking for a consolidation of all of these cases with the Department of Justice. This might, in a way, be kind of a step forward. It could be a universal settlement, so to speak, for everybody, and is particularly for the plaintiffs, and make the realtor going to lose. They have lost. It seems they're down for the count, right? Muhammad Ali is standing over them. It's basically over. Certainly from a public relations point of view, it's over. So that's a very interesting case, very interesting quote there. I want to just bring that back up again. One of our goals in filing the Gibson case, aside from the $600 billion we could win, is to make sure that any changes are brought nationwide. So again, they filed that case last week, just almost immediately after they won the Sitzer Burnett case. So this is a major breaking story. I think we'll have more reaction to it as the day goes on. But, we've been basically waiting up until this point to get a, how do I want to say this? The things that we've been waiting for have either been Department of Justice intervention and or the injunction from the judge. And reading more about the injunction from the judge, I said, maybe by Thanksgiving, but it seems like more like early December. And I thought maybe we'd get some type of DOJ letter of interest or statement of interest, whatever they call it, sometime this month. This is a complete surprise to me and shows to me, if it ends up to be true, that the Department of Justice is going to be much more aggressive than the conventional wisdom that people have about this case. This has been moving. Like, you get a thumb on you get your thumb on an issue, you can kind of sense how things have moved. And, from we'll never change the cooperation rule to, we'll change it to 0. And then, once you cave on that, it's a real slippery slope down to no cooperation at all. And that's, I think, what the Department of Justice is telling us if this report is true. And at this point, I mean, you got to believe that Ketchmark is telling the truth, that he is actually in talks. It would be foolish to come out and say this if it wasn't true. So I do believe it's true. I'm not sure that the Department of Justice likes to hang their laundry out like this, especially from the antitrust division. But maybe they're kind of like saying, Michael, you shouldn't have said that. But they're probably inside smiling. So this is breaking news. We will keep you posted. I'm Jack from Jack Gately Real Estate and the Online Real Estate Academy. Thanks so much for watching. Stay here for more. Thanks. Bye-bye.